Well, hello to you all and welcome to the Global Classroom. And today we are traveling all around the world, 193 countries, millions of children, to speak with some wonderful guests about a spirit of exploration. And what is that? Well, we're going to find out. Something really important in our lives, how we learn, how we go about things, a spark within our spirit. And we're looking at all aspects of our planet in awe and wonder, even blasting off with NASA to explore Mars at one point. And as you know, this broadcast is brought to you in collaboration with the World Health Organization, Smithsonian Science Education Center, BMG, National Geographic, and kindly supported by UNICEF. So let's get ready. Compass ready, backpacks ready to go as well. Get your drinks ready on this journey as we go exploring together and connect up with our friends at National Geographic and to meet our first guests. So, Andrew Brennan, it's great to have you back with us here today in the Global Classroom. Andrew, it's over to you. And by the way, Andrew, what do you think about our theme for today?
Thank you very much, Jeff. It's really awesome to be joining Global Classroom again this month. And I love the new theme, the big picture. Seems perfect for National Geographic. Welcome, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Andrew Brennan. I am an education fellow at National Geographic, where I work to support young leaders and change makers like yourselves all around the globe. The National Geographic Society uses the power of science, exploration, education, and storytelling to illuminate and protect the wonder of our world. And the future facing us as young people in this planet has never been more uncertain. How do we fit in, and what is our role in exploring and solving some of the pressing challenges of our time? As I'm sure you've begun to notice, young people around the world have mobilized, calling for action on an array of social and issues, but they are not just pointing the way toward solutions or waiting for others. They are going out, they are exploring. Young people are combining creativity with courage to explore new frontiers. And that's exactly what our guest today has central to his work. So I'm so excited to be introducing National Geographic explorer Gab Majia. Gab is a Filipino conservation photographer and environmental storyteller. He is an international award-winning photographer and National Geographic explorer, covering stories on nature, the climate crisis, indigenous people. But something that Gab has always made central to his work is having a sense of exploration, trying to find those stories that maybe aren't getting enough attention but deserve our focus. So I'm so excited to pass it off to Gab. He has a great presentation for us today, and I hope that you enjoy and get a sense of exploration as well. So Gab, why don't you take it away?
Thanks so much, Andrew, for that lovely introduction. You know, I think being a National Geographic explorer, there's really a lot of stories and journeys that came into play. And I'll be sharing to you guys today, you know, that kind of journey of, you know, what it means or what it feels like to be an explorer. Well, this, you know, dream of becoming a National Geographic explorer started with my father. It was when I was around 13 years old when he would bring me to the different mountains across the Philippines. So I grew up really exploring the evergreen forest, the wild grasses of the many islands we have in the Philippines. And I remember one time when I was 13, when my father brought me to one of the tallest mountains in Malaysia to do a major climb. And it was actually one of the first major climbs that I've ever had. But honestly, reaching that mountain, I wasn't able to reach the summit. I failed in that mountain as a 13-year-old kid. And that experience really led me to actually pursue more mountains seeing the raw beauty of nature, being in one with the fog, the mist, the clouds, it made me realize that when I grow up, I actually want to explore more of this beautiful planet that we have. So I went traveling all over different places, diving oceans and going to the most pristine reefs in the Philippines. But this, fact of knowing what I wanted to do in the future really started, I guess, with being clueless. I was really a clueless kid in high school and going into university. I didn't know what I wanted. I just knew that I wanted to explore. I wanted to travel and see our world. And this cluelessness kind of led to this sense of curiosity, of asking questions, what I want to do in the future, who I want to become, what stories do I want to tell. And later on, this curiosity led to the sense of exploration. I wasn't a National Geographic explorer before, but I've always loved the feeling of exploring and just going out of my comfort zones, climbing a mountain every week, diving with friends, and just seeing, the beautiful places that we have in the Philippines and Southeast Asia. And later on, growing up, I realized that this sense of exploration was honestly just a cycle. Like even today, sitting to you in front as an explorer, I'm still clueless what I want to do in the future. Everything's uncertain. But it was an endless cycle that keeps on telling me and pushing me to be more curious, to keep asking questions of solutions, problems that I don't know, and to stay hungry and go out of my comfort zone again and again. So this vicious cycle is something that I truly embodied in becoming a National Geographic explorer, because this is where I discovered my passion for photography. I remember when I was 19, I joined this photo competition by the Ramsar Convention on Wetlands, and it was published on National Geographic Explorer. And this is when I realized that my love for taking photos at moments with nature really led to discovering more opportunities, more dreams, and more things to discover. Photography, the camera became my passport to the world. It allowed me to travel to one of the most breathtaking places and glacial landscapes, all the way to Argentina and Chile, even camping under the deserts of the Milky Way in North America. This love for photography even led me to this place called the center of the universe in India and Pakistan, tracing the sacred Ganges River. But most of all, this love for photography, this passion for storytelling photography, was the one that really connected me more to my country, the mountains that I grew up in when I was a kid, and the places that I've always wanted to share to others. But the reality of these places that I visited, I also saw its fragility, the changes that are happening in the environment that I was living in. But instead of feeling dread, I realized that I needed to hope. I needed to dream more. And when I realized that we have to actually act now, as a photographer, as an explorer, this has become my mission to drive action and change for the communities, the different stakeholders, the different governments, by meeting and connecting and making sure that people are hearing the stories that I needed to tell. I remember we formed this organization, youth organization called Youth Engaged in Wetlands, which is the international youth leading network that advocates for the protection and conservation of wetlands around the world. I even connected with different conservation organizations, such as like Worldwide Fund for Nature, but I really wanted to tell the stories to the youth, engage more people and engage more students, communities about the stories that we're telling in National Geographic in my hometown and backyard. I realized, one of the greatest lessons throughout this journey is to not find your purpose. I think there's a lot of books, movies that tell you, hey, you got to find your purpose, the meaning of life. But one thing that I've always held in my mind is that you can't find something that you don't know what you're looking for. In this uncertain world and future that we have, it's not about finding your purpose, but it's about really being purposeful from the position and the places that you come from and where you have been. So I started, driving this mentality and just keeping on to tell more stories about the Philippines, bringing me to places of communities, indigenous cultures, and especially one of the most beautiful, breathtaking places for wildlife, such as the Agusan marshlands. I saw the stark realities of both beauty and fragility. But this purpose really of being purposeful is about finding your community. I didn't need to go explore the Patagonian glaciers. I needed not to go find that center of the universe in India, or even fly all the way to the United States to camp under the deserts. I realized that being purposeful is about doing work to where you are at and finding your community. It could be a youth group, an organization, storytellers, creatives, photographers, filmmakers. There's a lot of amazing people that are just waiting for you to meet them and waiting for you to connect with them to be able to drive that mission and vision of yours of wanting to become an explorer. Because exploration isn't about, discovering the uncharted places. It's about really pushing yourself to the limits and potentials that you have as a person to be able to contribute more to your community with a sense of shared of passion and purpose. And this sense of community really stuck to me, realizing how many of our youth, Filipino youth, are not really connected, and educated or aware about the issues that are happening in the environment. And this was the community that I found that we could really push in driving this mission and vision forward. It made me see, amazing creatures also that realize that there are people who are not being heard, who are being silenced, or who don't have voices. And it was realizing that this passion for storytelling was also to empower the animals, the wildlife, the disempowered communities and underserved towns that we have around the Philippines. I think, there are risks in chasing your dreams. And I think it's one of the most important things as well. It's really that one step foot out of that door, to go out of your comfort zone, and to really, it's not going to be as maybe bloody or dirty or cold as things that we sometimes do, but it's really about yourself, just being vulnerable to the fact that there are so much more things to discover around our planet and around the world. And I guess this is the true meaning of what exploration is, to stay curious and never stop exploring. It's okay to be clueless. And if there's one thing I want to show you, this short film about the beautiful places that we have of our beautiful planet that I was able to document during the past 4 to 5 years of my life. So that's all for me. Thanks so much, Andrew.
No, I thank you, Gab. I get goosebumps every time I see that video. And I truly appreciate your reminder to all of us that exploration doesn't have to mean going across the world or trying to discover something that you think someone else hasn't yet, but it's can really be about investing in your community, exploring your community, and trying to find ways that you can be purposeful in contributing to it. But you know, so one of the other elements of the theme for this month is this idea that young people are dreamers, that we can dare to dream for a future that is different, that's improved. And so I guess as someone who has been so dedicated to the Philippines and your home, and who has done so much work related to conservation there and in your region, I guess my question is just whether you have any dreams for the Philippines or for your home. What is your aspiration for where you're from, your community?
Yeah, thanks so much, Andrew, for that question. I think, you know, this dream really goes back to that story of that 13-year-old kid. You know, I was privileged enough at that time, you know, 11 years ago, to be able to see the pristine mountains and forests that we had. And I also want, you know, 13-year-old kids out there to experience the same thing that I experienced, you know, for the future generations to see the mountains in the Philippines, the wetlands, the oceans in the Philippines to be as pristine as it can be. No litter of plastic, no plastic pollution, no destruction, no mining all around these mountains. And I think that's really the one aspiration that I have, because I was privileged to see this at a young age. And I hope, you know, the same kids out there would have that same privilege to share that love for the environment.
And I hope everyone watching is able to find the beauty in their own community as well. Thank you so much again, Gab, for joining us for this segment. Thank you, Jeff, for having us at Global Classroom again this month. And with that, we will hand it back over.
Hey, Andrew, it's always a pleasure to have you here as well. And I was quite inspired by that and the story behind it, and saying, you know, stay curious and never stop exploring. Some beautiful pictures as well, and a story of inspiration about doing something for where your passion comes from and where your home comes from as well. Now, I said in our episode today, it's all about a spirit of exploration, and our next guest has pretty much done it all. It's amazing. But before we hear from him, I want to hand over to Katherine Blanchard from the Smithsonian Science Education Center to introduce him. Katherine, can you hear me first of all?
Yes, Jeff, thank you so much.
Wonderful, I can see you as well. It's great.
So hello, everyone. My name is Katherine Blanchard, and I'm so excited to be with you today. I'm from the Smithsonian Science Education Center. We're based in Washington, D.C. in the United States. And for those of you who are not familiar with our organization, we're dedicated to transforming primary and secondary education through science, serving learners around the world. So our goal is to support young people, like all of you, to gain the tools and knowledge to better understand the world and to be able to use science to address the world's most pressing issues. Today, it's my great pleasure to introduce Smithsonian Science Education Center collaborator Josh Bernstein, the explorer at large. Josh has traveled more than 1 million miles by train, plane, bus, bicycle, and camel to over 75 countries in pursuit of knowledge and discovery. He's a fellow of both the Explorers Club and the Royal Geographical Society, and has traced the Ark of the Covenant from the caverns of Jerusalem to the mountains of Ethiopia, met with tribal chiefs in the jungles of the Amazon rainforest, and hunted by moonlight in the forests of Papua New Guinea. He's ventured deep underground with NASA scientists to explore the origins of life on Earth and helped recover the Apollo F-1 engines off the floor of the Atlantic Ocean. This is all on a quest to shed light on some of the most fascinating mysteries on our planet, both natural and human-made. Josh's dedication to education is clear. He spent 25 years as a wilderness guide at the Boulder Outdoor Survival School, where he was once a student himself, before founding Explorer at Large in 2013. Explorer at Large's mission is to create generations of curious and courageous explorers, and they're now working with NASA and the Aldrin Family Foundation to bring STEM content to students around the world as a lead member of Project Ionos. Josh's production company, Mission 7 Media, is committed to producing content with a higher purpose. And some of you around the world may know him from roles hosting series on the History Channel, the Discovery Channel, National Geographic Channel, and even with us right here at the Smithsonian. He loves to share about his adventures and the importance of curiosity and courage, and I know he can't wait to share some stories with all of you today. So welcome, Josh. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Katherine. That introduction is overwhelming. I'm grateful to be here, grateful to be connecting with people around the world. It's an honor, and happy World Oceans Day for everyone.
And I'm going to turn it back over to Jeff to kick us off with our first questions.
Brilliant, Josh. And you're right, happy World Ocean Day, certainly. Now, that's a pretty impressive introduction, I've got to say, Josh, in many ways. And you kind of, hearing all the things you've done, it sort of oozes exploration and wonder and awe as well. And it's really great to have you here in the Global Classroom, honestly. And you know, the theme is about a spirit of exploration today, and it's a key one for us. So you're somebody who's explored the wonders of our world, taken, I've got to say, extraordinary journeys. And I know you're an incredible storyteller as well. So the obvious question to ask you first of all is, well, how did you develop this passion and love for exploration, and where did it come from?
Thank you. Yeah, it's something I have toyed with. You know, this idea of where do passions begin, and at what age does one become an explorer? And you know, building off of what Gab was saying earlier, which I thoroughly enjoyed, I think that those of us who define ourselves as explorers, and by that spirit of exploration, started at a, I guess, less professional point where we just are curious. You know, curiosity is consistent across not just explorers, but scientists, educators, people who try to distill the mysteries of life into this emotional hook. What's on the other side of, or what would happen if, or how do I do the, you know, the question mark, the driving sense of curiosity. And so I think for me, I've always loved asking questions more so than finding answers. I'm insatiably curious, and my teachers, even when I was 3, would you know, commented that I was comfortable in my skin and willing, as I got older, as Katherine was saying, as I got into the survival school mindset, as I toughened up, I was able to take that curiosity farther because I was then in effect comfortable outside my comfort zone. And then that led to a career, which I'm very grateful for.
Wow. So I guess what we're kind of saying there is it kind of starts with a question. It starts with a what if, or how, or what.
Yes. I think, you know, if you're trying to, I mean, if I had any advice to students in school today, it would be, you know, to really find in you that sense of curiosity. Think of it as a compass, as the needle on a compass, and it swings, and it should be able to swing anywhere. Right, real compasses point towards magnetic north, but the emotional compass inside hopefully a student today, would be freely swinging to go in any direction their curiosity takes them, and then you pursue it. The reason why we say at Explore at Large, our tagline is Virtus et Curiositas, which is courage and curiosity. Curiosity asks the questions, courage seeks the answers. So as explorers, we're always saying, okay, what's the directionality of my inquiry? What do I want to know? And we want to, it's not just about adventure. It's not just about adrenaline, right? Those are adventurers. We're explorers. Explorers are missionful. We have purpose, as we were discussing earlier with Gab's commentary. I think that we want to have the directionality of a mission and bring something back for the benefit, ideally, of science, of humanity, of our being here on Earth, whether that's solving the major issues around ocean acidification or climate change, or any, you know, fill in the blank. We have so many challenges these days. But it starts with curiosity and then moves into courage to get on your path as an explorer.
That's really, really good. And I know myself, you know, I'm a headmaster. I love education. I guess our job is to make sure that courage is instilled and saying, go for it, isn't it? When somebody points that way, as an educator, it's saying, yeah, you can do that, isn't it? That's a belief to go for it.
Yeah, and I think, you know, our job as educators is to open up that sense of curiosity in students and to nurture because look, the reality is when I was a student, or even if you went back 50 years or 100 years into the more industrial age mindset, the world was a bit more fixed in the trajectory it was taking. Today, because of computer science and the development of AI and the quantum leap in technologies that are going to happen over the next 20, 30, 50 years, the jobs that we're preparing students for, they don't exist. Even the technology really doesn't exist. So it's less about the industrial mindset of knowledge and more about the explorer's mindset of being able to ask questions and adapt and being flexible and being able to go into an environment with a mindset that serves the purpose. I think it's going to be like now because as Katherine said, my introduction working with NASA, we're looking at the opportunity to move civilization off Earth, whether that be to the moon and then to Mars. And that's a completely new environment, literally. So being able to prepare students today has more to do with the mindset than the skill set. Or maybe the skill set should include that mindset, which is flexibility, adaptability, and as I said, curiosity.
Oh, I think we've gone really quite far in that first question. That was brilliant, Josh. Thank you. And really a question now probably about what you've done. So if we put it out there and say, okay, out of all the things you've done, okay, all the expeditions that you've done, that you've gone on, which one for you was the most memorable and why?
Well, I'm grateful that for the networks I've worked for, there are documentaries to capture most of these experiences. So I do every now and then look at the archive at History or Discovery Channel and replay the journeys. I think for me, contextually, having been in the Amazon, as Katherine said, and communed with tribal chiefs there was definitely a moment. Similarly, going to Papua New Guinea and having a tribal chief invite me to resurrect a mummification ritual. Diving, I'm a diver. It's my biggest passion. So diving in the Maya in the Yucatan and exploring the cenotes and then deeper into the caves as a cave diver. That was, I think, the closest moment when I was filming and I said, okay, regardless of this being my job, this is just a magical spiritual experience to be deep into a cenote or cave and see the light playing through the water and noticing how the Maya interacted with their underworld was life-changing for me.
Amazing. I wish you could see that. It sounds absolutely beautiful. How you painted that there as well.
Yeah, if you're ever in the Yucatan and you have a chance to explore the cenotes, do it. They are otherworldly and truly, literally awesome in the sense of it. Don't go into the caves because you need to be a cave diver, and if you're not, it's dangerous. But cenote diving is safer and more accessible. And yeah, for me, I think that was. I go every year. I mean, it's not the past year, obviously, but I'm looking forward to diving in another 2 weeks because it's another realm for me. It's
strange. I speak to some explorers sometimes. They describe there are places in the world they describe as being thin, where the sort of the being in this world and also an experience that sort of transition is so thin sometimes. And when you get to places like that, you can almost feel worlds merging, things happening, and a sense of awe and wonder comes into it. So perhaps it was a thin place in that way, where that wall was quite thin between that.
Yeah, and interestingly, I don't know if you're aware that there is this phenomenon in caves in the Yucatan called a halo climb. Since it's World Oceans Day, I'll take a departure into the oceans, and so the halo climb is where the freshwater and saltwater meet, and swimming through one is surreal because it feels like you're swimming all of a sudden out of a swimming pool or into there's a strange sensation of moving through a barrier that is alien. And it's the best thing ever if you can ever do it safely, please.
It's got to go on my list. As soon as I can fly somewhere safely at the pandemic, let's look at that and do that, I think, as well. I'm going to throw back to Katherine right now. She's going to come with a question from a child from Europe, from Sweden. Katherine, you still there?
Yep, I'm here. We have a question from Eric from Sweden who asks Josh, what was the most dangerous situation that you've ever been in?
Ooh, okay, good question, Eric. Okay, I should say that risk management, whether I was running a survival school or being an explorer on TV, or now with NASA and what we're doing with Explorer at Large, we try not to get injured. I mean, it doesn't help me to be injured. It doesn't help production. But there have been, given the nature of the times I've spent outside on the trail, so to speak. So let's see. I broke my leg once. Not filming, sadly. I also broke my hand on an expedition in the Arabian Gulf 2 years ago while filming a story there on the oceans. But I'd say the closest I've come to death, if that's what you're asking, how you define danger. I was doing a story on the Mississippi River culture, the mound builders, for History Channel, and we were at this place called Poverty Point in Louisiana. And these mounds are humongous, like earthen mounds, and we were climbing one. The goal was, this being TV, we wanted to climb it in an epic fashion rather than just walk up the stairs. So I went up the other side of these mounds with a machete, and the expert I was with, an archaeologist named T.R. Kidder, and I were hacking our way through the brush. And I remember putting my hand up into a bush, and as I pulled my hand downward, it was covered in fire ants. And I had inadvertently put my hand into a nest of fire ants, which in Louisiana, for those who don't know, they're particularly toxic. And within seconds, they sent a pheromone out to say, sting, right? We're under attack. And so my hand, both hands were covered and stung at the same time, and within minutes, actually within seconds, I had what was called an anaphylactic reaction. And so that was, yeah, we raced to the ER. I gave myself some meds to get me there, otherwise I wouldn't have made it. And then they kept me in overnight. The doctor said if you didn't have an epinephrine pen, I would have died. And so I guess that's the closest, because, you know, I went to the ER and nearly died. But more often than not, I've tried my best to avoid danger. So thanks, Eric, for the question.
Well, that sounds a bit scary. The answer definitely sounds a bit deadly to me as well. So a really interesting one. I know we touched this before in our opening kind of question, a bit about why do you feel that inspiring a spirit of exploration is so important for learners over the world. Could you perhaps give a sort of sense of your passion for why, you know, why do you feel it's so important?
Well, you know, I think for me it's about fulfillment. You know, Gab was saying that as and I have a lot of friends who are explorers at National Geographic, at the RGS, at the Explorers Club, and so we all tend to talk about what inspires us. I think that facing risks and being able to, as Gab was saying, step out of your comfort zone is an important skill. But there's also another piece, and that has to do with, like, not just what you know, he would say, I think I wrote it down, there are risks in chasing your dreams. And I'd say, yeah, there are risks in chasing your dreams, but there are also regrets in not chasing them. And so for me, I think the reason why I want to inspire students through Explorer at Large and also with Project Janos for NASA, at a young age, there should be more opportunity for experiences and exploration to minimize regrets, to open up more doors that you can walk through. I think that's just a wonderful mindset to approach, as I said, as the world is changing decade by decade, if not year by year. And so for me, exploration is just that sense of, I can go there, I can step away from the comfort zone, what I'm familiar with, and see what's on the other side, and hopefully discover something new, which is an amazing feeling. Yeah, whether that's in the world or in yourself, right? Because ultimately life is an expedition, an exploration into the consciousness of yourself. So you don't have to go anywhere to be an explorer. It's a mindset. And so I encourage people to take that approach. It doesn't have to be to the ends of the earth. It can be right here in your wherever you're sitting right now.
The idea that sort of mindset and that spirit of exploration, taking that focus on it, is really, really important, especially right now, because we know there's perhaps a chance to rethink how we do things and to reassess things as well. Now, Katherine, I think you've got another question coming in from a different part of the world right now. Is that right?
Absolutely. And this question, I think, aligns perfectly with what Josh was just mentioning. This is from Niak, who's 9 from Thailand, and says, when I am older, I want to be an explorer. How can I start on my journey, even though I'm only 9?
Yeah, so, okay, Niak, great question. And as I was alluding to, and I'll be more explicit, you already are an explorer. At the age of 9, at the age of 3, you can be an explorer. Really, and we are actually born explorers. If you think about what parents have to do with newborns, children are so curious to kind of put things in their mouths or go over to the edge of the stairs and perhaps not, fall down them, or experience what it feels like to move from, like, crawling to walking to running. Life is an exploration, and on the early stages, parents protect us from that curiosity. But to be an explorer at 9, you are fully deputized, to the degree I can do so, to call yourself an explorer today, because exploration is the questioning, the curiosity, the courage, that sense of intrepid spirit to go anywhere and do it in Thailand, do it wherever. If you're watching right now, do it today. I mean, once we finish our global classroom, you can go across the street and be an explorer. That's the whole point of what we're doing at Explorer at Large, is encouraging people to take the explorer's mindset into their backyard and into their community, and ultimately through missions to improve those communities. So yeah, thank you. That's a wonderful question.
That's really fantastic. Now, Josh, the question for myself briefly here is about, if I'm watching this right now and I'm hearing about Explorer at Large, the work you're doing with the Alden Foundation, how can people get involved with those kind of things and stay in touch with that with you?
Well, the timing is interesting. So Explorer at Large, we've been in Ohio schoolrooms for the past few years, thanks to our funding in part by the Smithsonian and the Bezos Family Foundation. So exploreratlarge.org is our home on the internet if you want to go there. The work I'm doing right now with NASA, Project Janos.org, that launches this summer. So we are right now strategizing on which schools, which districts, which classrooms we're going to be bringing our content to. And then there's new work that we're creating right now with NOAA that hasn't been announced yet, but because it's World Oceans Day, I can allude to it a little bit. But yeah, I don't know, you can find me in a number of ways. Reach out, social media. I'm, joshbernstein.com is another one. If you find me, we'll come back and find you with news.
That's amazing, Josh. Thank you so much. Is there any final message for children around the world from you at all?
Well, I mean, aside from what we've said already, I'll hit the drum again. Be curious, be courageous, go out into the world with the explorer's mindset, and ultimately do it to benefit your community. The world needs help, and the big challenges of the future, some of the biggest challenges are going to come from scientists and engineers in the future who are in school today. 2050, if we look at the biggest challenges of climate change, students who are going to be people are going to be leading the world in 2050. That's students today. So study, learn your skills, get the underpinning of STEM or STEAM education, but remember to be an explorer too, and take that mission mindset into your life.
Josh Bernstein, thank you so much for being here. Kath as well, the questions, and I want to stay in touch with you on the Global Classroom, and we'd love to be involved in any projects going forward. Josh, thank you very much.
Thank you, it's been a pleasure.
Wow, so we heard some exciting stuff there, and I'd urge you to get involved with that. Some brilliant mindset as well, exploration of curiosity, and our themes are developing today in the Global Classroom. So let's go on a journey away from this planet here, perhaps linking into what Josh was saying about NASA, because our next guest is actually a research scientist at the JPL, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory for NASA, and is a deputy scientist at the Mars 2020 Perseverance rover, and also a participating scientist on the Mars Science Laboratory Curiosity rover mission, which is a great project right now taking place at this very moment. And she graduated with a BA in Geology, Astronomy, as well in 2008, an MSc and a PhD in Geology from Caltech, respectively. And her work on Curiosity rover, she was named as a 2013 Forbes list of 30 under 30s, and also earned several NASA Group Achievement Awards, and particularly NASA Software of the Year Award, which is amazing as well. Now, Katie Stack Morgan's research, focused on the Martian sedimentary rock record using orbiter and rover images data to understand the evolution of ancient surfaces and the process of Mars. Now, Dr. Katie Stack Morgan, she's brilliant. Let's see if we can draw her into Global Classroom now and try and connect with Katie. Katie Stack Morgan, welcome to the Global Classroom. It's great to see you. How are you?
Great to be here. Thank you. I'm coming to you from Santa Clarita, California today.
Well, that's a beautiful place. How's the weather? Looking great?
It's sunny and clear skies.
Wonderful. Well, great to be here and to join us. It's wonderful to have you here today. Throughout this episode so far, we've been talking about a sense of a spirit of exploration, something we're trying to encourage to look at the wonders of our world. And we've heard some great things so far, but I've got a sense that you're about to take us on a mission by looking up the stars and going on a journey possibly beyond our own planet. So can you explain to everyone watching today around the world about what you're working on at the moment?
Yes, my focus is very much beyond our planet. I work on Mars, and I study rocks on Mars, and I fill a role called the Deputy Project Scientist for the Mars 2020 Perseverance rover. The Perseverance rover is NASA's newest flagship mission to Mars, and this mission is seeking signs of ancient life and is tasked with collecting samples, rock and soil samples, for a future mission to bring from Mars back to Earth so we can study those rocks here in laboratories on Earth to answer some of our fundamental questions we have about whether there's life beyond Earth. And how planets evolve over time. And so I help to lead a team of about 450 scientists who work on this mission. And we work to plan the science activities for the rover, and we help the rover to explore on Mars.
So in some ways, if your job is amazing, okay, it's truly inspiring, it's definitely exploring. what is that a normal day like for an explorer like you when you're trying to explore a different planet?
So I explore through the eyes and senses of a robotic explorer on the surface of Mars. And so we program the rover to make science observations every day. And when those observations come back to us here on Earth, I'm on the front lines looking at that data and looking at the brand new images from the surface of Mars. And so much of what I do is on my computer at the moment. I still work remotely, and many of us on the rover team work remotely. And so we are here at our computers waiting for that data to come in. And it comes down and we look at it, I look at it, and then we talk to each other over video chat, just like this, over chat, typing chat on the computer. And we talk about what we're seeing in the new data, what new discoveries have we made? And then we come up with a plan for how to respond to those discoveries. And we think, okay, well, now that we've learned this about our landing site and Mars, this is what we're going to plan next. And so it's a very iterative process of scientists working together with engineers to explore the landing site of the Perseverance rover and to fulfill its science mission objectives.
Now, obviously, this sounds amazing to us, okay, but do you still get that sense of excitement and exploration as that image downloads and it starts to come down? Do you get a buzz of excitement waiting for the next data to come down as well?
Absolutely. Every single day is an exciting day to work on Mars, and you never know what that data is going to hold within it, whether we're going to see our first sign of ancient life. And so we're waiting on the edge of our seats every morning when that data comes in, and I can't wait to see what the new data for today will look like. And so we put a lot of time and effort into thinking about how to choose the right targets for exploration for the rover, and we put a lot of thought and conversation into it. And so when that data comes down, it's always exciting to look at it and say, well, did we have the right hypothesis? Were we asking the right questions? And do we have answers to those questions now that we have the data down? And sometimes we don't. And so we have to think about, well, what's the next question I can ask? And what's the next observation I can make? And so it's the kind of process where you are constantly thinking and reacting, and the gears are always turning. And that's one of the most exciting things about working on a Mars rover team, is that it's a very dynamic experience, and there are new questions every day, new challenges, and that's one of the most exciting things about working on a project like the one I work on.
So this has been an incredible journey. So it sounds incredible, inspiring, and we're looking at young people all across the world right now who are watching this, and they're perhaps budding scientists or even explorers themselves. Could you perhaps share with us your personal journey that took you from a young Katie who may have been the age watching this up to, say, somebody right now who's actually analysing and working with a remote rover exploring Mars?
I started off being interested in stars and planets when I was a kid, and I had the good fortune of going to museums through school and school field trips and getting interested in phenomena outside of Earth and beyond Earth. And so I was always fascinated by space and what happens beyond our own planet. And so for a long time I thought I wanted to study stars. And so I went through school thinking, well, I'm going to try to do that and think about what steps I can take to study the stars. But then I discovered, when I was in college, I discovered planets. And it's kind of a funny thing to say that I discovered that, because I live on a planet, we live on a planet, but I never really looked at our planet and thought about what stories could be told by studying the rocks on our planet. And when I learned about that, I thought, well, you know what, this is really exciting, and I can apply the knowledge that I have from studying the rocks here on Earth to figuring out the story of other planets, and particularly those planets that have rock records, just like our own planet does. And one of those planets that has a rock record that in the past might have been very similar to Earth is Mars. And so that was a planet that really attracted my attention, because I'm still pushing the boundaries of exploration, and I'm exploring something new and something beyond Earth. But at the same time, some of the things that we see on Mars and that we observe on Mars are very familiar to us. And I can use my knowledge and understanding of Earth to think about how Mars evolved. And so I found my way to Mars in that way, and just through a series of opportunities and following my interests and passions. And when I had an opportunity to work on the first mission I worked on, which was the Curiosity rover mission, I really grabbed that opportunity and said, you know, I'm going to make the most of it. And so I threw myself into it, which I think is a great thing just to do generally when you have an opportunity and it's something you love doing, just to give it your all and your 110%. And so I really jumped in there, had a great experience working with the scientists and engineers on that team. And that led to my current job, which was the Perseverance rover, and they were looking for someone to help lead the science team. And so I found my way to that job and got a chance to see what it's like to develop a rover and then send it and launch it to Mars and then have it land. And now here we are on the surface, and I'm helping to lead the team, and it's an incredibly exciting experience, and it's a real honor to be leading the team that I lead, and to be inspiring folks who are, like me, interested in pushing the boundaries of exploration and exploring beyond our own planet.
Brilliant, and a great story as well. And I think what an inspiring one about seizing that moment, taking that opportunity, going with it, running with it, to see how far you get to. We've had a few questions sent in from around the world, and I've got one here from Bryn from Germany and Deutschland. Thank you so much, Bryn, for that, and guten Tag to you. It says here, what do you hope to discover on Mars and why?
One of the things that I'm most excited to discover on Mars is whether Mars as a planet once had and hosted ancient life. That is the big question that we are seeking to understand about Mars and other planets beyond Earth. We know that Earth is capable of supporting life and that life developed on Earth, and here we are today in lots of diversity and complexity. But the question is, was life able to develop in other places beyond our own planet? And Mars is the closest place to Earth, and probably one of the best places in the solar system to look for signs of ancient life beyond our own planet. We know that Mars was once very Earth-like early in its history, and so we're targeting Mars as a place to look for those signs of ancient life. And every single mission that we've sent to Mars, no matter where we've sent it, has discovered habitable environments, or environments that are capable of supporting ancient life. And so we're optimistic that life could have arisen on Mars. And so we are sending missions to study the rock record of Mars to understand whether there are signs of life or biosignatures preserved in those rocks on Mars. And so Perseverance, the Perseverance rover, is that next mission, looking to make that discovery and collect the samples to come back to Earth so that we can finally get an answer to the question, was life present on Mars in this particular place where the Perseverance rover is exploring? And so, you know, we may not get the answer while the rover is on Mars, but that's one of the most exciting things about Mars sample return, or bringing samples back to Earth, because we can use all of our capabilities here on Earth and all of our laboratory techniques to really get the most out of these rock samples that we can't quite do when you send a rover to Mars, because the rover can only carry a limited amount of instruments and a limited capability. But by bringing samples back to Earth, we can answer all of the big questions we have about life on Mars and how Mars evolved over time.
Brilliant, thank you so much for that, and thank you for the question from Bryn as well. Brilliant. Our next question is actually coming in from the beautiful countries in Africa. It's a great place to go and see. And I think an interesting question here is about somebody who obviously is excited by geology and wants to do something. What kind of thing could be done? It comes from David in South Africa. He says, how can I start to explore geology myself?
That's a great question, and actually an easy one for me to answer, because the best way to start studying geology is to go outside and open your eyes and look around you at the world around you, because there is geology everywhere. You'll see geology driving down the road, walking down the road, or when you go hiking or walking. The great thing about rocks is that they're everywhere. And so we live on a rocky planet, so you can't go very far without bumping into a rock outcrop or seeing rocks in the ground. And so I encourage you just to go outside, look around you, look at the natural world, make observations. If you see a rock on the ground, pick it up and look at it. Bring it to your eyes, and what do you see? Describe it in your mind, and how does it feel? And you can even ask yourself, how does it taste? Sometimes geologists will actually taste rocks, and there's information to be gleaned from that. Is it coarse or is it fine? Is it gritty or smooth? And so engage your senses to explore the world around you. And that is the best and easiest way to become a geologist. And that's exactly what we do. And we try to do that on other planets using our robotic spacecraft and using all of their senses as best we can to study other planets. But you can do that right now today here on Earth. And so I think that's the easiest, best way to become a geologist, just by making observations of the natural world around you and asking why is the world the way it is, and why does it look the way it does? And I think that's the first step to becoming a geologist.
Excellent. So David's heard it from here. Go out there, get some rocks, taste them, see what they're like, hold them in your hand, and actually get a real spark for that. If I can ask you a quick follow-up question, actually, which would be, what was the moment that really caught your imagination about geology understanding? Was there a moment in your life or an experience that you did when you were younger particularly that thought, I really love this?
That's a good question, and I'll have to think back on whether there was a particular moment. I think it really was a series of events leading to where I am now. My family has always loved the outdoors, and any opportunity we get, we would go visit national parks around the U.S. And so I had the opportunity to hike and explore outside as a child, and I think I've always had a love of gorgeous landscapes and impressive rock formation. But really the moment for me was when I was in college and I was taking a class on planetary geology. And so that was exactly what I do now, but it was my first experience with it. And I had this moment where I realized that I've always been interested in studying beyond our own planet, but I don't know anything about the planet that I live on. And I had this moment of, before I go and I start looking beyond Earth, I want to understand Earth and how Earth formed and what processes were involved in creating my own planet and what my planet's story is. And that's really when I thought, okay, well, I have to fill my course load with a bunch of geology classes because before I can look beyond, I have to understand where I am. And so I think that was the moment where I decided, okay, I do want to explore beyond Earth, and that's important to me, and I like the thought of being an interplanetary explorer. But I have to understand my own planet first. And so that was kind of the moment when I think I realized, all right, I'm going to study geology and I'm going to learn as much as I can about planet Earth and then apply that to other planets.
That's probably a great message in terms of what we're trying to share today about, if you want to go forward, look around you, learn from things, learn around you, about your environment, to go and look at glaciation or issues to do with the world today, explore the world in its fullest extent. It's an amazing place, an amazing playground for us to explore, and then take that knowledge beyond here, which I think is a great message. It's just amazing. Well, okay, our time is almost up here in this section of the Global Classroom, but thank you so much for being here today. Is there perhaps a final message you want to share with all of our viewers?
Yes, so the Perseverance Rover project is an interesting one because I'm a scientist working on this project right now, but the goal of this mission and the subsequent missions that will follow is to bring samples from Mars back to Earth. And I may not be the scientist who's working on those samples, but the children of today will be those scientists and engineers working on the next missions and looking at those samples. And so I just want to encourage everyone to be a scientist in your everyday life and ask questions and be curious. And because we need you to answer those questions that we have about Mars and about life and about our planet and other planets. And so I encourage you all to go outside, look around you, make observations, ask questions, and become the scientists of tomorrow. So I'm excited about that and about the potential for you all to take us into the next exciting phase of discovery for our planet and other planets out there.
Brilliant, and an important message, an exciting message. I want to empower people, to ignite people, to say to them, take hold of it, be excited about this and lead forward. You are the scientists, the geologists, the planetary explorers of the future, and you may well be looking at these rocks come back from Mars and being a part of that journey going forward. Katie Stapp-Morgan, wonderful to have you here today. Thank you so much, and goodbye. Well, I think you can probably gather from that that don't just rush out and start licking and tasting rocks, but it's an important message there, as I said before, that you will be looking at those Mars rocks coming back. It could be one of you watching this right now that's inspired by that to go and do that. So let's recap for a second where we've been and what we've done. So we started off, we've looked at photography, amazing stories from National Geographic, and journeying around the Philippines as well. We've gone on a tremendous mission with Josh, understanding what's happening around the world, held some great pictures at that compass, that exploration side of it as well, and going with courage behind that in what we're doing. We blasted off to Mars to hear about that as well, which is an amazing story and a great journey about what you could do. So where do we go next on World Ocean Day? Well, let's look at somebody who is a competitive freediver, somebody who broke 11 South African freediving records and held those. She was the first person in South Africa to hold all 6 freediving world records at the same time. And during her competitive freediving years, I believe she could hold her breath underwater for almost 6 minutes, which in my mind makes her pretty much a real life mermaid as well. Alongside these achievements, I can hear you laughing there in the background already. These achievements, she's worked on a documentary filmmaking and helped a range of top athletes improve their mental strength. I know she's fantastic at breathing and exercise as well. We've seen it before in the global classroom. And in recognition of her dedication and a commitment to secure her achievements, was also selected as one of the World Economic Forum's Young Global Leaders in 2014. There's more to come. In 2010, she also established her own trust, Ion Water Conservation, which we're going to talk about later on in this session. And of course, we are talking about the wonderful, the amazing, the real life mermaid that is Hanli Prinsloo. Are you there somewhere, Hanli, in South Africa? How are you?
Yes, hi there, Mr. Shaw. I'm right here in Cape Town.
Was that embarrassing enough for you?
That was lovely. I think you did really well. Thank you.
Thanks very much. So it's great to have you. It's a privilege to have you here as well, and for staying up with us and being part of this message that's going out here on World Ocean Day as well, which I know you're so passionate about in your journey, and you're quite a remarkable individual in what you've achieved. Of course, today's about World Ocean Day, a spirit of exploration and what we're doing. And this broadcast, we want to encourage all of our viewers to connect with the world around them. We've heard people talk about connecting through photography. We've heard about Josh saying things there. Hanli says, lick the rocks and go from there as well, explore the world outside, go straight outside your door and go and do that. But I do know you didn't grow up near the ocean. Is that right?
Yes.
So you weren't near an ocean. So how did you then go on that journey to find this connection with the ocean in your life then?
Yes. So for me, I think it started off with my first real experience of nature. And I grew up on a horse farm outside Johannesburg here in South Africa. So I was rural. It was in the middle of nowhere, which I really felt as a kid. I was like, we are in the middle of nowhere. All my friends are so far away. And it kind of forced me to make nature my friend, because we really had nothing close to us. And on this farm, my dad was a horse breeder. And so I think for me, it started with really starting to understand the relationship with animals and seeing how we share similarities and we can connect with animals. And then we had 2 dams and a river on the farm. And so the next step was, how long can I hold my breath underwater? And can I swim like a mermaid? And my sister and I even had a mermaid language that we practiced underwater, and we would make these little squeaks and squawks. I guess it was almost like dolphin Morse code, if I think about it now, that we were like squeaking, and then we could like realize that we can actually talk to each other from 2 different sides of the dam. And then the next question was, how long can we stay down and talk to each other like mermaids? And can we move like so? Anyway, so as a very small child, even though I was far from the ocean, I loved the sensation of my body in water, that weightlessness, the stillness, and then trying to see how I could be an aquatic person. And then as an adult, I discovered freediving. And the first time I heard the word freediving, I was like, somebody offering free scuba diving lessons? I couldn't quite figure out what this thing was. And somebody was like, no, freediving is when you hold your breath and go as deep as you can. And it was literally as if somebody had flicked the light switch. And I went, yes, that is what I want to be doing.
Wow, that's quite an amazing story. And you mentioned it in that talk about feeling natural in water, feeling at home in water. Is that something quite deep rooted, you think, in our who we are?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, nobody's indifferent to the ocean and to water, right? I think that either people say, I long for it, I can't wait to be in water. Or they say, I love staring at the ocean. Or if they have fears, then they speak very openly of their fear of the water, but nobody is indifferent. And I think that says something about the human connection with water, that we long for that connection and immersion in water. And it's very deep rooted, so much so that it's actually physiological. It's not just an emotional connection. Our body has a connection with water, that we share a mammalian dive response that whales and dolphins and seals have in their body. So when we actually go underwater, as soon as our face touches the water, our mammalian dive response kicks in, and it's as if a little seal that lives inside of you wakes up and comes out to play. So the first thing that happens is that when your face touches the water, your heart rate slows down. And then your blood redirects, called vasoconstriction. And as you keep holding your breath, even your spleen constricts and releases oxygen-rich hemoglobin into your bloodstream. So when you ask whether we have a deep-rooted need for being underwater, it's literally in our every cell.
Wow. And obviously, we're going to talk about your amazing work with I Am Water, because in some ways, I'm guessing that's where this is about, you know, I am water. Before we do, can we talk a bit about what you think the most dangerous threat is to our wonderful ocean environment? Because you're somebody who's gone right in there. You've done amazing dives. I've seen the pictures of what you've done. It's phenomenal, okay? And I think on World Ocean Day, we could probably pause and think about, well, what is the threat to our, you know, our natural gift of water that we have on this wonderful planet? What is the danger there, Hanli?
So I think my overarching answer to what the greatest threat to the ocean is, and what scares me for the health of our ocean, is that people think the ocean is so big it can't die and it can't be damaged, and that we feel disconnected and feel that the ocean is so big nothing can really hurt it and I don't need to do anything about it. I think that is literally the biggest threat, is that people don't feel a connection with the ocean and don't feel like them caring is important. And so this has a couple of knock-on effects, right? Because if we don't care about something, then a whole bunch of terrible things happen. For example, plastic pollution, which is a huge threat. For example, overfishing, where we just indiscriminately fish the oceans as if there's enough fish for us to keep harvesting 365 days of the year. I mean, if you look at a farmer, they don't go out and harvest their crops, right? There's a time for sowing, there's a time for watering, there's a time for letting the soil rest. There's all these different seasons. In the ocean, we go out every day and harvest, and it's just not sustainable. So overfishing is another one. And then, of course, habitat loss is a huge one as we destroy ecosystems in the ocean. But for me, I think the one that worries me the most is climate change, because climate change can in one single stroke wipe out the ocean as we know it. If temperatures rise and corals get bleached and the sea actually starts becoming acidic, which can happen through climate change, the ocean will literally not be able to sustain life anymore. And that really scares me. So the overarching thing for me is that people need to care. They need to understand that the ocean is large but fragile. And then I think we can start focusing on how can I affect these different topics that really change the well-being of the ocean. It starts with caring.
No, I think you're right in that. So I guess caring and connecting to the ocean are two really important things. I got a sense of your passion there, and about how much you do really fear for this as being a genuine concern, that it's something that obviously natural water and being in natural water is something that's so therapeutic to us and so beautiful, what we see on here, and to lose that would be, on our generation's watch, would be something tragic and something quite disturbing going forward. You got a foundation which is called I Am Water, okay, and you know the name is quite interesting in itself. Could you perhaps share a bit about this? I think I know what you might say here about why it's called that, and a bit about the vision behind that.
Sure. So, you know, in my journey as a competitive freediver, I was so, and I loved both Josh and Katie speaking about this, you know, this curiosity that drove them, that, you know, makes you lick rocks and wonder what's at the top of that mountain. And, you know, this like insatiable curiosity. And for me, when I discovered freediving, this curiosity that was evoked in me was, what more can my body do in water? Like yesterday, 20 meters felt too deep. And today I'm diving 25, and next month I'm going for 35. And by the end of my career, I was doing 65. And as you said, held my breath for over 6 minutes. So I was so curious about what can my body do in water that I started doing all this like experimentation in my own freediving and research. And I think for me, I realized more and more time I spend in water, I realized that my body is best in water. I feel most at home in water. And of course, 70% of our bodies is water. So we literally are more water than we are anything else. And 70% of our planet is ocean. So our bodies, in a very beautiful symmetry, mirrors our blue planet, that we are aquatic beings and our planet is an ocean planet. I mean, what people like Katie and her colleagues are always looking for is there water, right? Because once you find water, it means that planet can sustain life. So what makes our planet so special in the whole galaxy as far as we know, is that it has so much water. And so like you were saying, I'm passionate about this, not just because it would be a travesty to lose the ocean and everything she holds on our watch, but it would literally mean that no life on Earth could survive, because the ocean gives life. It drives the water cycle, it gives us rain, it gives us drinking water. So I think calling I Am Water organization I Am Water, it's about our bodies being aquatic, our planet being aquatic, and that it's also something that's for all of us. I think as a competitive freediver, I traveled around the world, I dived, I saw the beauty of our ocean, and then I came back to South Africa and realized that the ocean was still a very divided place, that it was mostly white people who were surfing and diving and being on the beaches, and you know that a lot of Black people weren't comfortable in the water. And this, of course, is because of our history, because of the apartheid regime in South Africa. A lot of beaches were whites only, a lot of swimming pools were whites only. And I realized that for me, I can't rest and enjoy my ocean privilege if I can't see more people of my country that I love so much experience the ocean. And so we started I Am Water to really work as a facilitator to create opportunities for children from all walks of life to experience the ocean. So right now at the I Am Water Ocean Conservation Foundation, we work with thousands of children every year, children who come from under-resourced communities who might never have been in the ocean, seen the ocean, or for that matter, can't swim. So that really is the passion of I Am Water, is to remind all of us that we are water and that it is all of ours right to have access to both clean water, but also ocean as a place of adventure, of exploration, and of the healing that it offers.
Wow. I mean, I think the global classroom itself, we are a believer in what we call immersive education. So we like children to be in there. What Josh said about the exploration side was getting people out of the classrooms, going to go and do it. So your foundation is really about, okay, if they're going to connect with the ocean to get the benefits, but also understand it to safeguard it, they've got to get into it and love it and be immersed in it. And by being immersed in it, that's a transformational thing for them, isn't it? And you must see their faces when they go the first time. It must be amazing to see that.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, as a competitor and explorer, you think that what's ever going to beat breaking a record, or what's ever going to beat that experience of swimming with a sperm whale or a blue whale for the first time. And then you hold the hand of a young child who's never been in the ocean and feel their white knuckle grip relax to relaxation and awe and loving, floating, and going from fear to love, from fear to adventure, from fear to, you know, finding a place for themselves in nature. And that trumps any record or any personal experience in the ocean ever. It really is the best of all experiences, is to see somebody else open their eyes underwater and make the ocean their home.
Thank you. I mean, that's amazing to hear that story as well. And I think you're absolutely right. In this time now when we've had difficulties in the pandemic, and I'm going to sort of chip in here and say that, you know, there are people here that are struggling with mental health issues, that find things difficult. And I'm going to recommend that, you know, getting into the ocean is a positive treatment for challenges that you might face. I met a lady last year on Global Classroom, Professor Tierney Tiss, and she said basically, you know, if you're going to get into the water, then it's the best way of melting away those troubles, those concerns, and it has a physical transformational effect on you as well. So thank you for sharing that. So from a mental health point of view, it's so important, as well as just experiencing that. An amazing foundation in what you're doing for there. And what's next for Eye and Water, by the way? What's the next plan that you're working on at the moment? Anything exciting?
Oh, absolutely. So we are working with a curriculum that we hope to start getting into. We've actually already created it to support schools in South Africa to have better immersive ocean curriculums in the schools, which is super exciting. And then we're also working with creating a kind of playbook for organizations around the world who want to do what we do and be able to train them, like bring cohorts to South Africa and train them in this kind of education, ocean education, and be able to share our learning, share our evaluation tools, and see how we can spread the Eye and Water vision around the world by empowering other organizations and individuals to do the work.
And well, we'd love to help share that at some point, Hanli. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Okay, we've got a lot of questions coming in, and one that we always get asked, Hanli, when we see pictures of you, is an inevitable question here, is about sharks. Okay, now there's a lot of different things about sharks. There are unfortunately some Hollywood issues there as well that come out. So we know that sharks sometimes get a bad press, and we've had a lot of questions sent in about really asking, do you really get that close to sharks? What's it like swimming with predators such as sharks in the ocean? So let's go over to the person who's been there, who's been that close to sharks and done that. What's it really like, and what are they really like?
Such a good question. I think, like you say, sharks really did get the worst end of the media stick. You know, first films like Jaws, and then, you know, all this kind of, even Shark Week, it's all this very exciting TV that makes them look like absolute monsters, when in fact they're just these really big fish who are trying to mind their own business in the ocean. I've swum with, yeah, basically every species of big shark you can imagine in your mind. I've swum with in the ocean. And I think the main thing with sharks is, for me, that it really is about knowledge and information, and not about an emotional attachment to the stories we've heard. You know, they are a predator. They're not cuddly. If you see, you know, photos of people swimming with them where they're touching them and saying sharks are our friends, they're not going to hurt us, that's not true either, because they're a top predator. I think that they are beautiful for being a top predator, and they deserve our respect. So the first thing I would say is never ever touch a shark. They deserve their own space. You don't want to be so close that they're not cuddly. You don't need to cuddle a shark. I actually think that goes for all wild animals. Secondly, I think that if you are in the water with a shark, and something that's very important for me is always to do my homework. I don't swim with sharks unless I understand the species. So either I've done a lot of work with them before, or I'm with an expert. Understand the species and understand the environment. So here in South Africa, our great white sharks are very much hunting. This is like a really prime breeding and hunting ground for great white sharks. So swimming with great white sharks in South Africa is really not a great idea, because you are basically in their kitchen. Then there's other parts of the world where you see beautiful images of people swimming next to a great white shark, where they're there kind of for other reasons. And so that's a place where maybe you can get in the water with great white sharks. It's the same. Once you start learning the body language of a shark, I've been in the water with huge, beautiful giant hammerheads where everything's fine, you know, we're swimming, the shark is relaxed, I'm reading her body language, the visibility's great, so I can anticipate what she's doing. And then suddenly it changes, and you realize that somewhere in the ocean, something's happened that I can't pick up, and there's another shark and then another shark, and their behavior is different. So maybe they've spotted prey, maybe something else has happened, but I can start feeling that I should get out the water now. So I think it's very much a humility coupled with knowledge. And I think if you bring those two things together, it's possible to have an incredible inspirational experience with sharks underwater. But I think it's done with a lot of respect and knowledge. But when you get it right, it is phenomenal. It is such an unbelievable, awe-inspiring experience to swim next to a shark that's 3 times as big as you are, and you look into their eye and you realize this is an intelligent apex predator that is allowing me to swim next to it. That's a very special experience.
So when you say a special experience, would you say that is the #1 experience for you, or have you got another kind of fish or creature or location that was your moment? And we heard Josh talk about his moment diving earlier on the show. What was the one for you? Would say that is it? That was the most the number one moment for you in the ocean?
I mean, I love sharks, but they are fish, right? So I think a difference for me is when I'm swimming with mammals, whales, dolphins, and seals. Like, they are interactive. They feel like they are family, you know? So a shark is inspiring because it definitely feels like the other, you know, something very different from us. But swimming with a whale and dolphins and seals, you feel like you're meeting a like-minded friend that you just haven't seen for a long time. And I had the absolute privilege a few years back of swimming with a big pod of sperm whales. And wow. Sperm whales are, you know, the largest toothed creatures to ever have graced our planet. So they're very large, they're very intelligent, they hunt in packs, they can dive to 3 kilometers deep. Their sonar is stronger than anything that's ever been created by man, you know, so they click underwater and they send clicks out to search for food, to communicate. And even at the surface, it was about 60 whales were resting in between their dives. And I got in the water and these 2 huge whales just turned and started clicking me, investigating me like they would prey at depth or when they communicate with each other. Luckily, they didn't turn the sonar all the way up, but it was like this knocking in my sternum as these sperm whales explored. They took a big breath in, they dived down, and a baby sperm whale who wasn't old enough to dive with the rest of the pod stayed with me for the whole hour that the adults hunted at 3 kilometers deep in this trench. And for some reason, whatever those 2 adult sperm whales saw in me, they deemed me worthy of being the babysitter. Usually that job is given to a young female sperm whale, but in this case, I got the job of sperm whale babysitter, and we played these games, and I would dive down and then he would swim around me, and then I would obviously have to breathe, and the little whale would kind of be hanging under me like, what, you have to breathe again? And then I would come up and then he would go down, and we would play these games. And it really, for me, that was that moment in my life when I realized we truly live on a shared planet. This is not a human planet. This is a planet that belongs to all the creatures that walk on this and swim in this planet with us. And I will do anything I can to make sure that that little sperm whale and all the other animals in the ocean swim free, because at the end of the day, even though those sperm whales are so much bigger than us, we are the powerful species. We as humans are the most powerful. So whether you like it or not, you've got the job. You are also the sperm whale's babysitter.
An amazing story, a great message as well, actually. Now, going to our final question for you now, which is we've got a lot of children across today, World Ocean Day, and going across the rest of this month. They're going to take this into their schools, classrooms, or at home if they can't go into schools right now. They're going to watch this, and also educators as well watching this around the world. What's the message you would just say to them right now in this moment?
I just think that don't not dare to care. I think that somehow it's become uncool to care. And I just want to say caring is the coolest thing ever, because what our planet needs right now and what the ocean needs and what nature needs is for people like us to keep our hearts open and to keep caring. Because when we care, we can make decisions about how the ocean is doing, about how we treat each other, how we treat the planet, how we treat ourselves, and that it's not a sign of weakness to be kind and to care. And I think that to me is something really important that I try to carry through my work, that even though I feel like the ocean can be so soft, she's also the most powerful thing I've ever seen. And I think we have that in us, that we can be at our most powerful if we remember that we can also be soft and care.
It's a great message. Thank you for that. So really ending on a culture of kindness, a message of kindness in what we're doing there, and very powerful. Hanli, thank you so much for being here today and for staying up on that side of it. And every blessing to you guys over in South Africa, and what you're doing is amazing. And I Am Water, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, and happy World Oceans Day, everybody. What a special day. Let's make sure that every day is World Oceans Day.
I think that's important, not just one day in the year, but all year round, isn't it? I guess it's the best time to go for that as well. And thank you so much. And so here's our journey. We come to our end today, but perhaps a message of taking it forward. And the theme for the whole time, and our wonderful guests that have been here with Katie, Katherine, with Hanli, with Josh as well, with Andrew as well. I think the whole thing's been fantastic, but that message of curiosity, going for it, taking those steps, being the explorer. that spirit of exploration will take you places. So be bold and be confident. As Hanli said, I wonder how I can breathe in the water. Going for that, obviously within safety as well. You know, thinking about what planets will be like and the rocks out there from Katie as well. And Josh's amazing spirit there, and the compass of exploration that comes out of it, and the vision behind that. You can make a difference, okay? If you step out and you make a difference, and actually dare to be kind. Dare to be kind. I dare you to live your life with a culture of kindness for those around you, and especially for our oceans as well. And remember, we are part of a global ecosystem, and we are interdependent here, and we have a responsibility and we have a role to play here in our world around us. So from me here at the headquarters of the Global Classroom at Scarisbrick Hall in the Oak Room here, and to all of our guests, a huge thank you and a goodbye to all of you today, and we'll see you soon on the next episode. Take care.